Welcome back to What's Up with Jessup. We are not sure if this first episode really recorded or not. Technical difficulties here, but we're joined here with a special guest, August Weinbren.
Thank you so much for having me, Jessup, Jong.
Thank you for being on the show. You're all the way from the United Kingdom, wonderful country, hard times right now. And you wanted to talk about being productive amidst this coronavirus pandemic.
Yeah, absolutely. I know a lot of people are working from home full time now. Maybe for the first time, I know normally I think the statistic is only 5% of American employees work 100% from home. And now, obviously, many more people are working from home than before. But also, if you're a student, I know I was very accustomed to attending the lectures, being able to comfortably ask professors questions whenever I was confused about something. So I can imagine that would be difficult as well. So I think there's a few things we could talk about. But how would you like to get started?
I mean, I think that's great. Thank you for the statistics. 5% of people. Whoa, I didn't know that. And imagining 100 or near 100% of people working now remotely, that must have a lot of consequences. And we were talking about productivity, how to be productive. There's obviously wins and losses. What were strategies you thought, August, were effective in being productive at home?
Well, there's a few things that I think um, work for me, and I think everyone's different. So, from what I understand, there's like two ways of structuring your day.
Mm, okay.
One could be around like the things you actually have to do,
Yeah.
um, and then take however much time you need to get those things done, but you have your set of goals for the day.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other approach is schedule based,
Mm,
where you more focus on how you're spending your time each day.
yeah.
And if something, um, by the time you're finished, um, or after the time you allocated for that task, you still move on to something else. Um, so I guess my approach is more so an intermediate of it, where I first, every evening, think of everything that I have to get done for the next day.
Mm-hmm.
And in doing that, I um, make my schedule for the next day.
Uh-huh.
Um, and then in the end, I will, um, at the end of the day, I will take whatever, at least at the end of the workday, I will um, take whatever time I need to finish up all those tasks that were on the list.
Yeah. That's
Um,
a great piece
yeah.
of advice. I've been actually trying to do the same thing as well, where it's like a really cool idea where your day actually starts the day before. And so you have to prepare for the day and saying like, oh, these are the goals I want to achieve the day before. You're so much more prepared when you become when you start your day. So that's what you've been doing along with some of the scheduling.
Yeah. So would you say you use more of a schedule oriented approach or a goals oriented approach?
I mean, I think I really appreciate you just dividing it into goal versus schedule because I wasn't even thinking about it in those different terms. We all think about like putting goals and scheduling, and I guess I was doing both. Like scheduling out my entire day in chunks, being like, oh, I'm gonna work on thesis for 3 hours. I'm gonna work on this for 2 hours, and then I also had goals, but I've never thought of it as two different ways of scheduling your day.
Yeah. And for me, this is very new as well. I think,
Mhm.
like when you're working in an office or even if you're just working in a library, have to think less about what to do next because
Mhm.
either you're going to meetings regularly and your work revolves around what happens in that meeting, or you have um, lectures consistently. And I found that I would do the work related to a class,
Mm.
like both before and after each lecture, which I'm sure a lot of other people do as well.
Yeah,
Um,
that's so true. I
yeah,
really have to structure a day because it's already structured. You know, the professor just starts talking about the topic, so you don't have to put your mentality or mental framework back into this topic for this hour and that topic for that hour. It just happens naturally.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Um,
that's
and
great.
yeah, because almost I think in an office setting or in a school setting, those serendipitous encounters where you just run into someone and then you start talking about a problem that you're stuck on are very valuable.
Yeah,
So you don't want to stick too much to a schedule when in that public setting. But when you're just working from home, I mean, you're not going to have those serendipitous encounters anyway. So you might as well be very rigorous with how you spend your time.
yeah, I completely agree. I think that's great advice, especially for people who have hard time structuring their day. Like for me, I would just either work on only one thing or just not work on anything at all, just like sleep all the time, just sleep through the day. But if you have a goal, you think, you're excited for the day. You're in the morning being like, oh, I'm gonna achieve like these 5 goals, and I have a schedule. So you have a better feel of what you want to do for the day.
Yeah. And with what you were saying about like sleeping all day if you don't have a schedule, I know like this past Sunday, I told myself, okay, it's Sunday, so no schedule today. Just do whatever I feel like. I actually feel like I had less fun that day
Yeah,
because I wasn't as organized with how I was spending my time.
that's
So,
true.
like, even just planning out your fun so that you can maximize it on a weekend, I think just makes one a happier person.
I completely agree. That's so true. Planning out your rest time is as important as planning out your fun, like, work time. Yeah. Because if you don't plan
Yeah.
out your fun time, you just watch television shows. At least that's what happens to me. Just one television show after the another, and you feel kind of guilty while doing it because you're like, oh, maybe I should be working, maybe I shouldn't. I don't exactly know what I should be doing. So you feel a little bit guilty, and you just completely go on. So it's like not time efficient. You don't have that intense fun time as well. So it's just bad.
Yeah. I almost wonder if because like watching TV is just more passive, if that's why it feels less fulfilling. Because like no matter how trashy of a novel I'm reading, I always feel like reading a novel just feels more wholesome in a way than watching a TV show.
Oh, that is so true. Yet it's so hard to do that, August. You are you are doing something that people find hard to do. At least I find very hard to do because in your head, like reading is much better than watching television, right? It's better for your mind. It's better for your reading skills. It's a less passive thing. But at the end of the day, if you don't have that plan, you're like, oh, I'm just gonna watch TV all day and have like 5 bags of popcorn.
I guess I mean I wouldn't say I'm like that good at only reading. I still like watching TV and
Oh
I've
yeah,
watched two movies this weekend. So
that's good.
I'm not like I'm not like anti-television, I guess.
Uh-huh.
But or maybe I am a little bit, but I don't exactly practice what I preach 100% of my life.
Exactly. And that's the same with me. Like we all know what we have to do, but we don't do it in real life.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess that's the point of this podcast and this conversation. We're like keeping each other accountable and talking about how to be productive. And just being that in that mindset actually helps you become more productive.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, so how's your, I know you said you have been running a lot.
Mhm.
Um, has your, have you modified your exercise routine in other ways, given that the gym is closed?
Sure. I mean, even when I ran with friends, there was a peer pressure of being like, we have to show up at 6:30 in the morning. That's what we used to do, August and I, when we were at Hopkins. 6:30 in the morning. People would be waiting for each other, so there was a pressure to be on time, have fun, and like there was even like a social aspect to it because you're talking about life while you're running. So it was just great overall in so many aspects.
Yeah, just an amalgamation of joy.
That's a great way of putting it. It was just an amalgamation of joy. That's what it was. But now that people are not around, you have to really be on top of your stuff in order to get yourself, pretty much drag your body outside of your house to run.
Yeah.
Yeah. So today I just couldn't sleep for some reason. I like woke up at 5:30 and I just could not go back to sleep. So I watched TV for like an hour, or maybe 2 hours, an hour and a half probably. And I was like, I can't really do anything else, so I might as well go out and run. And so I think the really trick is tricking your mind, being like, I really have nothing else to do. If I get tired after my run, I'll just go back and sleep. That was my mind like trick. And so I just went outside and it was like, oh, it was just so nice outside. Weather's great. You start running and boom, you're done with 10 kilometers of running.
So you think that approach worked well for you of saying to yourself, I have nothing better to do, so I'm just going to do it?
Yeah, because it's actually so, like, I have nothing better to do. Like, I was studying or like just, watching 2 hours of television on like how to sell, like what I'm watching right now is how to sell like jacuzzis, like hot tubs. That's not applicable to my life at all. So that's been very helpful. Like just thinking about things in small chunks where like, I have nothing better to do. And like, it's not that hard to like just walk outside, right? Putting on your socks isn't that hard. So you start with that.
Yeah. And I think also like making things easier for yourself too. Like for me, I missed my morning run today. And I think like what I decided I'm going to do for tomorrow is just like having all my clothes out and ready for running, right? Like put them out tonight and then so that I can just slip them on tomorrow morning. And I guess like all of these things kind of add up just to help keep oneself accountable to the habits they set.
Yeah, I completely agree. Like, exactly. When you're trying to work out, you're the laziest person in the world. You don't want to do anything. So anything that makes it better and easier for your lazy future will help.
Yeah.
I have the same.
Yeah.
I put my socks out, put my running shoes out, even for my jacket. Like I have my gloves and my hat already put in the pocket, so that I don't have to do anything. Just put on the jacket and I'm done.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny how it works like that. Like putting it out is so much easier the night before than it is in the morning. But I mean, it's the same task. And I wouldn't even say, well, maybe you're a little more tired in the morning, but I feel like I'm pretty tired at night too.
You're right. You're right. I guess it's just the motivation. It's like think about chemistry. Like the activation energy is so high to start running or like start working out that you might as well make it as low as possible so that it's just like one tipping point can allow you to just start going outside. Whereas if you have to not only put on your socks, but also put on your pants, also put on your jacket, and put on your gloves and put on your hat and put on your headphones. That's like 6 different tasks that you have to do. Whereas if you all figure that out, it's so much easier.
The other thing I found is really helpful. I mean, I guess this is just general wakefulness in the morning, is like having my phone alarm so far away from my bed that I have to actually walk across the room to turn it off. I don't know if you've been the same way.
That is such a good point. I completely agree. What happens if you just don't put it far away?
Oh, if I didn't put it far away, I just like I mean, I can get also really flexible about it. Like if it's even like if it's 6 feet away from me,
Yeah.
I will like I'll stay in bed and physically like stretch my whole body out just to turn it off, and then so I can go back into bed. So it has to be at least more than 6 feet away.
I completely agree. That's what I do too. We just do the silliest things when we're trying to be lazy. Like we can do anything. Be like Spider-Man, start climbing the walls and being like, "Oh, I'm gonna push that," and then go back to sleep. Like,
yeah, exactly. Oh, and also like having a glass of water next to bed so that you can just drink that as soon as you wake up. That's also really good.
That is so true. I mean, you know me. Like I could show you my bed literally, but it's like I have water now. After following your advice, I pretty much have water on my bedside.
Excellent.
Yeah, and that really helps so much because it wakes you up. Just drinking water wakes you up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I feel moisturized just hearing you say those words.
That is good that you're moisturized. Yes, exactly. But one thing to be careful is if you drink water during the night, just because you're thirsty, then you're cued to wake up. So you're screwed for the entire night. So that's one to be careful of.
You know, it's funny you should say that because I've heard like the traditional alarm clock, if you want to take a half an hour or an hour long nap, is you just drink a really large glass of water right before you go to sleep, and then you'll less.
That is true.
Half an hour, an hour.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like people also drink coffee just before that. So it kicks in 20 minutes. So it's like just naturally you're like, oh, I'm caffeinated. I can't sleep anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like short naps are a great move. Like, especially if I'm gonna go out for the night, and expect to like be up. I mean, usually I'm asleep on a weeknight around like 10:30, but if I'm staying out and I expect to go to sleep at like 2 or 3 or something like that, taking like a 20-minute nap around like 7 or 8 p.m. I think just feels very healthy.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, these are gems. August, I think you're dropping too much value in this episode. That's overwhelming. I think we have to like have different episodes for each of these, like drinking water, taking naps, you know, all these different things. It's just so much to unpack, so much value in here. So, yeah.
But what are your thoughts on naps?
Well, you will find out on our next episode of the podcast with Jessup and August, where we will talk about more on productivity, naps, and more. So please tune in. But thank you very much, August, for being on the podcast. Do you have anything else to add? But don't add.
Well, if you'd like to shift it over to the next episode, that's fine with me.
Of course. Do you have any LinkedIn or social media that you would like people to follow?
Well, you'll have to tune into the next episode.
Oh, yeah. You won't even get to know what social media platforms you have until the next episode.